Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Trade Talk. I'm your host, Niko. This is episode 18, and I got 3 different books I wanted to talk about with you guys today. First up, we got Baby Teeth, Volume 3 by Donny Cates and artist Gary Brown. It seems like this is also by Aftershock. I've been talking about a lot of Aftershock books lately with you guys. That's good. This is a cool little publisher that, it's been only around the last couple of years, I'd say. And, there's a few different titles by different good creators that I read over there. Baby Teeth probably being the most current ongoing one that I've been reading from them, as well as probably my the one I've enjoyed probably the most as well. And, Donny Cates, this is Donny Cates doing a creator-owned story, basically about the Antichrist. It's about a younger girl who I guess she has her baby when she's like 16 years old. Somehow she gets pregnant out of nowhere. They don't really know how or why, and you kind of learn along the way, what goes on and like why it kind of happened. And by the point you reach in this volume 3, which collects, I think it's 11 to 15. Each paperback collects about 5 issues of this series. And I think I've heard that the next volume is going to be the last. Like, it's only been, I think he only wrote this as a 20-issue story at this point. And excuse me, guys, apologies if my voice is a little hoarse today. I'm not sure if I'm coming down with something, or so if it sounds a little bit differently today. My apologies, but I'll get through this for you guys. But my voice is probably usually a little bit more crisp than this. But anyways, so in this volume, she goes to hell. Like, the baby got taken, I think, at the end of the last volume. And then when this volume starts off, she's with her father and another person that had escaped hell with her son. Basically she has to use them as guides to like get them to open up this portal again to hell for her to rescue her baby. And while in hell, she sees her sister, who we thought was dead at this point. She was in the book earlier, but she's alive and well and basically kicking ass in hell now. I mean, she's more like her father. Her father was like, I guess, he was in the army or ex-marine or something like that, and he's like the more badass one in the family, and he's like just an old grizzled dude that fucking has got all this life experience, and basically the daughter is more like him, the one that was in hell that we thought was dead. And so it was nice to see her again, and for all the family to reunite there. And you actually see like Satan, like basically the devil you basically meet in this, and you gotta get a little bit more of an explanation as to what's going on. Why she's given birth to the Antichrist, or do you? That's the question. I won't spoil that for you guys. Basically, we get some sort of answers here in this volume, and it's reached a pretty interesting point. But what I gotta say about this is it's surprisingly actually very emotional as well as funny. Like, the dialogue is spot on. The story is a very enjoyable story. I pretty much flew through this third volume. It reads very well. The pacing's great. Art is good. I like Gary Brown, although I will say this Gary Brown looks a little bit more rushed than normal, or at least a different style that he's basically adding to this. It's very smudgy, very inky, but messy in a way. But yeah, everything looks good. It's not like I can't tell what anything is, or anything's drawn really badly or anything like that. It's just his style in this. Basically I'm looking forward to the next volume, if that is the ending of this series. I think there'll be a little sweet little volume when it's all collected there to pick up and read. If you're a fan of Donny Cates, this is his creator-owned work, and I think this stuff that I've read, more of his creator-owned stuff, has actually been better than the stuff that he's done for Marvel so far. So definitely check it out, Baby Teeth. 3 volumes. It's not a huge, series to get into. You can easily pick this up. And, definitely I recommend it. I really, really enjoy this whenever it ends up coming out. Next up, I got Superman Year 1. This is by Frank Miller, art by John Romita Jr., and this is from the DC Black Label. This is Frank Miller's Superman story that I think that came out after Batman Damned. I guess I should have listened to my gut on this one, guys, because originally I was not going to end up picking this up, or I was going to pick it up and wait to see it for cheap. I didn't pay full price for it, but it's basically a $30 book normally, U.S. cover price. But I'm a big fan of John Romita Jr. I really love his art, and I just want to first off start off by saying that wasn't the problem here. I thought he actually looked really great in the most of this. There was some stuff that, especially in the first issue that he did, I don't think that looked, fantastic. Whenever he draws kids, kind of looks kind of weird for me. So that was the first chapter of this. This is basically, each issue of this was a different chapter in Superman's life that Frank Miller wrote. And I know that when this was announced originally, whenever a couple of years ago, whenever they said they were going to do this eventually, a lot of people, talk shit about it because they're like, well, Frank Miller hates Superman. Like, if you read Dark Knight Returns, like, apparently in the past he's stated as such. So yeah, even branding it with the Year One title, Batman Year One, is one of the best things he's ever written, and I love it, and it has lots of fans. People say it's one of the best definitive Batman stories, and for him to go and do that with Superman, people were either somewhat interested or basically dismissed it right away as a result. But yeah, I didn't really like this that much, to be honest with you. The first issue was probably the weakest out of the whole series, I will say that, and I would say the third issue was probably, I guess if I had to say, my favorite out of all three. It probably had the most elements of things I kind of dug now that we had actually caught up to Superman, and probably that was the closest interpretation of Superman that, of a Superman that we would know from comics, right? It had a lot to do with the Daily Planet, and, Jimmy Olsen and Lois is in there, so it had those elements, Perry White, like, it had that whole newspaper kind of angle to it. You seen Batman show up. Batman was part of it. John Romita drew a pretty awesome looking Superman actually when he's in the suit and when he is an adult, along with Batman. So that was all really great. So like the first issue was him when he was younger on the farm, them finding him growing up in Kansas. Basically the whole thing of him coming to terms while in school of trying not to use his powers for bad, like to basically get back at bullies or do this kind of stuff, defend and help people, but hiding his powers at the same time and just trying to use them fairly because obviously, he has all these amazing powers and that whole thing. It's been done before. We've been told these types of stories, but of Superman's origins or early beginnings and this kind of stuff. And then the second issue was a weird fucking one where like he basically went to like Atlantis, like underwater. He grew up, finished school, and then he's basically enlisted himself in like the Navy or something, and like went on a boat and goes around the world, but then talks to like I guess his whoever he reports to there in the Navy, and he told them some story about mermaids, and then then as they were, on the water out on like some voyage, he actually went into the water and like went, I guess, looking for said mermaids and like found some like mer people. Then he ends up like being attracted to one of them, with like their siren songs or whatever, and it turns out she's like one of like Poseidon's daughters, and then he has to like almost do like this, like I don't know, like Herculean like task or something to take down like this some crazy sea monster in order to like allow his daughter to be with him. So he had like kind of prove himself to him. So it's very strange. Like I guess they ended up hooking up. It seems almost as if he like they alluded to the fact like I guess he had sex with her and it fallen in love, but basically like. So I guess he lost his virginity to this fucking sea creature, this like mermaid. I don't know, it was weird. And although I will say that the John Romita art during that time, like doing this big sea creatures and all that kind of shit, was awesome looking. But and like Poseidon and all that. Again, I enjoyed most of the John Romita art in this. And then these hardcovers that they put out for the DC Black Label books are actually a little bit larger scale. Like width-wise, like they're wide books, so like the art actually really pops and really looks great in this format. And yeah, and then the third issue kind of got more of like your more modern day kind of Superman story, and it was probably my favorite. I actually liked quite a bit of what was going on in that story in particular. But the thing that you can't escape and get away from throughout this entire book Even if you don't like this interpretation of Superman, even if you don't like, Miller's ideas, or the fact that there was some associations of rape things going on in here, like some harsh kind of like tone, like subject matter, and in terms of like, him, Lana almost getting raped in the first issue happened, and like he had to like save her. So, and from that, and like in school he was like friends with the weirdos, like the outcast kids, but then they try to make it seem like it's all like the losers and like goth kids, and this kind of thing that that's been portrayed in other kind of school kind of type the stories about school and things like that. So I just thought it was weird choices to make for a Superman story. But again, this is Frank Miller writing it, so it's gonna be, what did I expect? Like he's always kind of had a different kind of outlook on things, and of course with that you get in the second issue with the Navy, you get like them basically trying to take out some terrorists on the water, and then the guys had like turbans and stuff like that, and I know that that area for Frank Miller is also questionable always, it seems like, of his depiction of other cultures, and just like yeah, he's made some racist undertones and overtones in his work over, in the past, some would say, and his view on politics and just things like this, right? So, despite all of that, because you can pick it apart and say, hey, you know what? There's some interesting elements here. This is a different Superman story. I'm a big Miller fan, and you dig this kind of thing. You like this kind of weird tone for a Superman story. The dialogue is horrendous in this, and this is almost like the same thing I said about that Brian Azzarello Damn book that I read, also from DC Black Label. It was just a fucking chore to get through, and don't get me wrong, Frank Miller has never been known for somebody who has great dialogue. Quite the opposite, actually. It's usually his art or stories that people kind of dig on more than his dialogue, but this was just awful. I mean, the first two issues, the second one the most, I think, is because it was mostly just kind of described to you, like through like it wasn't actually like, it wasn't the characters talking to one another a lot. So, oh man, it was just very clunky, very fucking shitty dialogue, repeating dialogue. Like you would say something in the text, and then you would hear one of the characters say what he's saying in the text, and yeah, it was just very badly written. It was such a fucking slog to get through this. Like, if it wasn't maybe for the nice looking art and just my pure curiosity, I may have not even made it through this. So yeah, for that, I would say this isn't worth picking up. If you can look online, or there's an open copy somewhere you can take a flip through if you're interested in the Ramita art. I think it's worth checking out for that. But yeah, it's not something I would tell you guys to rush out and go pick up, because this was not very good. It's an interesting experiment, if anything. Seeing Miller write a Superman in a year one type of story setup, if you want to call it that, even though it's like at different points in his life, but I guess it's the early stages of him being Superman, sure. But yeah, no, just badly written, not well executed, good art. So yeah, Superman Year One, by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. And last off, we got November Volume 1, titled The Girl on the Roof. This is by Matt Fraction, art by Elsa Charretier, and colors by Matt Hollingsworth, and it's by Image Comics, and this is the first of a series of graphic novellas, according to this, that is going to take place in this world with 3 different women's stories kind of all intersecting with one another, and basically, I guess all their lives are connected through one person, like that's behind it all, like behind this whole kind of thing that's happening in this, like in a dark criminal underworld, like according to the back of the book here. Sorry, underground, it actually says. And this first volume was quite interesting. Elsa's work, I've seen some of her art on some things through DC Comics. I guess most notably, she did I think it was like a 12-issue series of Starfire, like Jimmy Palmiotti, I think, wrote it. He may have co-wrote it with Amanda Conner. I can't remember that, but and it was drawn by her. And I would say, if you had to, and this is the highest compliment because he's one of my favorite artists, though he's not with us anymore. She's got a kind of a, I would say, especially in this, like a more of a looser styled Darwin Cook. Like, it's very, at least, especially in that Starfire series, it very much looked like a Darwin Cook. In this, it looked a little bit looser, but stylistically, I think if you had to compare it to anybody, we'll go with him. It definitely looks a little different, and it's definitely, she's got her own thing going on, but, and again, that's like the highest compliment that I can give for her art, and so I really love it. I really love how it looks. I love the style. I loved this presentation of the book. This is I think $16.99 retail U.S. price. Yeah, hardcover through Image Comics, and and it just got really nice design to it. The color, like the Matt Hollingsworth color on this, it's got like kind of cool colors that go well, like light, cool tone colors that go well with the art, and it's definitely like a crime noir story that's being told in this. But the thing about this, and I guess that's why it's the first in a series of graphic novellas, like I don't know how many volumes they plan to put out of this story. You don't really get many answers in this. It's more kind of just leading you along, giving you some, details as to these three girls' lives, and I guess maybe moving in the direction where they're all going to somehow intersect with one another, or be connected through some way of some guy who's actually, as a result of whatever he's up to, is ruining these three girls' lives, or messing with them. It's for some reason. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, so it opens up with this girl who's like a whiz at like crossword puzzles. She does all these crossword puzzles in the paper. Like, she runs out to get the paper, like literally off the trucks in the morning when they're going to load them in. And it opens up with her like in a coffee shop, and some guy approaches her and says, "Hey, I'll tell you, I know all about you. I've been watching you. I know you like doing these puzzles. How about if I tell you that if you start to decipher these codes, they're going to start putting in these puzzles in the crossword puzzle every day for me. I'll give you $500 a day. I'll leave it here for you. No questions asked. You don't need to really know what's happening, what's going on with it. But if you decipher these things for me, I can make you a very rich woman. $500 a day, each puzzle that you do, since you're so good at them, decipher them, get these codes for me." And then she's like, "Yeah, okay, sure, why not? Like, sign me up. What do you want me to, like, when do we start?" Trying to get some more details out of him, like, what's the catch, this kind of thing. And through these conversations, she asks him, he tells her, "Listen, if one day you wake up and there's no puzzle like this to be found in the paper, you'll know something wrong happened, and I'm not going to be able to help you, and basically your life's going to be in danger," or something like that. Like, something bad's going to happen, or the whole world's coming to an end, I think he says to her in particular. And then from there, you kind of see her basically starting to do this, and as her life progresses, what she ends up doing with the money, or like what her life has become, and how she's dealing with it. And she turns out, I guess, she's like in the drugs and partying scene and all this kind of stuff. She's wasting away a lot of it, but then meanwhile weird things are starting to happen and go on around her. And then from there you get introduced to two other separate women in two different kind of stories, two different situations throughout the city. Like, one of them's like a dispatcher woman who I guess works on through the emergency dispatch, like that sends the things to the cops or for ambulances and this kind of thing. And she's just worked like a bunch of shifts back to back, so she's like tired, and there's all this mayhem and crazy shit going on in the city, and she can't believe what's been happening lately. And then in the other one, you got some girl who gets like, I don't know, she stops to like help someone out, it seems like, in need, but then she finds like a gun in front of her building, and then she calls it in. But then as she does that, like, she gets sworn by some people, I guess, that were like maybe had planted the gun or were following her, and then she kind of falls into the middle of like this whole, like, I don't know, whatever the hell's going on with the crooked cops or something like that. And yeah, and apparently, there's some shit going down throughout the city that's going to connect all these people at some point. But I will say, it did leave me wanting more. It was not. It was a pretty quick read, I would say, but along with fantastic art and an interesting premise and just a ongoing mystery, and definitely something I think that Matt Fraction is more suited to write. Like, I like more of his crime kind of based stuff, or things like this where he kind of tries to do this whole like noir mystery type stuff. I really dig it, and I think he did a good job here. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. This is November Volume 1. I think right now, I think there was 3 volumes solicited, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's like just it's like a 3-volume story, because it's the 3 women and all that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next volume. That would be the only, I guess, if you want to call it negative about this, that I would say about this book, is it definitely did leave me wanting more. It you could tell it's going to be a continuing, ongoing series. Like, it wasn't even structured like, most big 2 kind of superhero comics, where at the end of the arc it kind of feels like you've at least completed one story and you're moving on to the next. Where this just felt like a smaller piece of a larger story that's being told, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? You just kind of got to be committed to it and understand that. And if you felt, have that feeling finishing the book, I think it is to be expected. So, yeah, but I think there's definitely enough here to kind of grab onto and look forward to it, picking up the next volume. So yeah, like I said, check it out. November, really, really, really enjoyed it. Okay, and that does it for me tonight, guys. Again, apologies for my voice on this one if it's a little bit more hoarse than usual. Yeah, I'll be back next week, hopefully sounding better, and talking about more books for you guys. All right, I'll see you guys next time.